Number 1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9, 10,
11,
12.
All I have learned, I learned from books. Abraham Lincoln. All the world is my school, and all humanity is my teacher. George Whitman. These quotes and others that I will be stating throughout this speech were taken from Lifelong Learning at Goodreads.com 2014. Homeschooling is a form of education that has existed since the beginning of time, and it's growing. Now there are over 2 million homeschoolers in the nation. It has received criticism over the years because it's different and it interferes with public school funding. As a result, there are many stereotypes people have about homeschoolers. I'm not going to try to persuade you to homeschool or that homeschooling is the best form of education. Even though it does have great benefits, it's not for everyone. I hope to persuade you to ignore stereotypes and misconceptions about homeschooling by informing you and disproving these misconceptions. Before you can develop an opinion about homeschooling, you need to know a little bit more about it. How do I know about it? I homeschooled my children. Let's look first at why parents decide to homeschool. We're going to look at a few reasons that came in a report by Brian D. Ray, PhD, president of the National Home Education Research Institute, that came out on January 1st, 2014. The first one is a better learning environment. They feel that there are less distractions, less negative distractions at home than in schools. The second one is a customized curriculum that is based on learning styles and development of the children. There's an enormous amount of curriculum out that parents can use. You can also supplement with educational videos and books that you can get at the library. There are numerous field trips that you can take and hands-on experiences also. We took many educational vacations. The third one is for medical and academic challenges that their children may face. Sometimes these children need more one-on-one teaching. And then finally, a fourth one is to provide a safer environment. And we know this as a result of the violence going on in schools and drugs and just some of the other stuff that goes on in public schools. Each state has a particular set of laws for parent educators to follow. Some is very simple and others is more complex. Now that you know a bit about homeschooling, let's look at the number one misconception. Homeschool kids are not socialized. This is highly exaggerated. Now there are some exceptions, as in everything, but for the vast majority, they participate in extracurricular activities like sports and scouts, 4-H, church and community activities, and many more. There are support groups and co-ops where they interact with other children and they have the chance to be taught by other parents. Homeschoolers learn to socialize with children and adults of all ages. They also have the opportunity to make lasting relationships, not just acquaintances. Lisa Rivera, in the Homeschooling Option 2008, addresses the subject of socialization. Some children are indeed isolated, feel friendless, or have trouble finding their place in a social group. However, these children can be found everywhere, in public schools, private schools, and homeschools. And this is true. I was in public school all my life, and I didn't fit in, so I found my socialization through church and other activities. Now, let me address a common question. Are parents qualified to teach? According to the U.S. Department of Education on April 28, 2013, statistics show that at least 50% have a bachelor's degree, and at least half of those have teaching degrees. The other 50% have some college or a high school diploma. I fall into the latter category. I had some college. Did this prepare me for homeschooling? No. What I did have was the willingness to learn, as do many other homeschooling parents. If you have questions and subjects that come up that you're not familiar with, you can search out answers in books, on the internet, from other people. A lot of homeschoolers are not just homeschooled by their parents. They have other opportunities to have other people teach them. Being a good teacher is more than just knowledge. It's the ability to inspire, motivate, and encourage. Robert Frost said, "I am not a teacher, but an awakener." The next question is, how will your children cope in the real world if they are isolated from it? Most homeschoolers are not completely sheltered. They're in the world, but just not in public school. Keep in mind the extracurricular activities that they participate in. Homeschooling gives most children a foundation of moral values so that they can better cope in the world without needing to fit into it. They will eventually be immersed into the world fully. Linda Dobson, author of the Homeschooling Book of Answers, addresses the topic of sheltering her children. "I'm not trying to shelter them from all the bad in the world, but as a parent, it is my job to guard their hearts." You may have other concerns about homeschooling that I've not addressed yet. You might argue that homeschooling does not provide structure. Well, Sonia Hoskins, author of Homeschooling for the Rest of Us, 2012, states, "Please recognize that while many homeschoolers follow schedules with zeal, others take a more relaxed view of homeschooling. The important thing is that they are learning." In the early years, when I was homeschooling my children, one of the things that they will say now that they liked the best was that they didn't have to dress for school. I think in the early years they probably did their school in their underwear. But that's okay, it didn't harm them, and they learned. Another argument some might have is, do homeschoolers do well in college? In the study done by Brian Ray, PhD, that I mentioned earlier, on the average, homeschoolers do better on the ACT and SAT tests, and overall, academically, they do better. Because they have more time to focus on their subjects and their interests. They're not spending the whole day in school. More colleges are seeking homeschoolers. I hope I have given you enough information to answer your questions and disprove a common misconception. While homeschooling is not for everyone, it is a legitimate form of education. The majority of homeschoolers grow to be well-rounded individuals, the same as some public schoolers. In the years I spent homeschooling, I learned so much about my children individually. I was their parent first, their teacher second, and soon grew to be their friend. Homeschooling is not just a form of education, it is a lifestyle. I want to close with a quote by Gandhi. "There is no school equal to a decent home, and no teacher equal to a virtuous parent."